I am pretty much off of watching YouTube woodworking these days. Unfortunately, I'm still on it just enough to watch the first 40 seconds of the latest Blacktail Studio video titled, I Have a Dream. I had a very similar intro idea, but now I will not use it. This project was inspired by months and months of thinking about large patterned segmented panels. The internet is overrun by uniquely patterned cutting boards, and my Facebook feed of highly fast-forwarded end-grain cutting boards is enough to make even the bravest beaver cry. But what if there was more to public woodworking than cutting boards? What if everyone's uncle tried out making something else for once? Could we bring back the glory days of making new and unique things? Well, maybe. This is the beginning. I believe that when it comes to really intricate projects that start off with lots of strips, the ceiling is the roof. The drum sander is similar to frozen pizza. I remember a time where I was able to function without it, but it has become such a useful and convenient tool that it is hard for me to understand how I ever got by in those dark and sad times. These scraps I'm running over the joiner I'm going to use to evenly spread the clamping pressure during my glue up. I've learned the hard way that if you do not use these pieces of wood on either side of a glue up like this, the laminated piece comes out better suited to be the bottom of a rocking chair. And so my voyage begins, the first glue up in a never-ending cycle of cutting up trees and gluing them back together again. Ryan Lochte, who I probably mentioned years ago somewhere in the dark ages of this channel, does not seem to be having a good year. My significant drought in uploads has not been due to me not making things recently. It has been due to me not taking time to edit and voice over hours and hours of poorly organized footage. This video was taken back in January, so seeing myself with cold hands and a jacket on is a little bit disorienting. I seem to be having a very vocal and painful day, though I remember not why.
Ah! Ow! Man, my hand hurts. All right. All right.
Sometime between when this was filmed and the modern era, Steve, that renowned ignorant astronomer, left me this comment, implying that me laying my toes on my own tools and throwing my clamps around was perhaps disrespectful. I just wanted to clarify the timing of things and assure the viewer that this comment had nothing to do with my lack of reckless clamp throwing in this video, and I will continue to disrespect my surroundings in the future. Alright, here's the current miter saw setup. I have a stop block clamped in place, and the saw as well as the temperature in the shop are both roughly 30 degrees. I say roughly because it ended up being slightly off the first time. I'm just cutting triangles by flipping my block over and bumping it to the stop block after every cut. I'm operating the saw with my hands.
No. Yes. Oh! Sing for me.
My initial shout of glee soon turned into fields of sorrow as I quickly discovered the dangers of compounded errors. If all 6 blocks are even a little bit off of 30 degrees, the whole thing compounds and turns into a big mess. Luckily for me, I had a second board to cut triangles out of. So I adjusted the saw and then set up a cinematic view of my armpit while cutting out more triangles.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh. Ah.
Well, it turned out to be another Sunday afternoon of disappointment. I know the camera is a little bit shaky, but what ended up happening is I overcompensated, and the next assembly was too loose rather than too tight. I ended up just shuffling everything around and mixing and matching until everything pretty much evened out. I broke out the level to glue up my sections in halves, which is a trick I learned from segmented bowl turners. This is no Pittsburgh. That's much better. This trick from the woodturners of the world is just to glue each half together first, and then you can sand both of those edges perfectly straight before gluing the halves to each other. I'm not sure how common this is. I just remember way back in the day I saw the guy who has fun, stays passionate, and makes some things do it, and it really stuck with me. Speaking of that guy, and referencing my intro, I am completely off YouTube woodworking. All the people I grew up watching have either switched to more artsy things, like Mr. Passionate, had midlife crises, stopped uploading or sold out to big sponsorships, or migrated to please the general public with clickbaity titles and making the whole video just a big hype train. Which is all fine and great, but I miss the days of being able to watch somewhat entertaining people make cool things with a reasonable set of tools without having to sit through 2 minutes of VPN sponsorships or have the whole video revolve around people highlighting and promoting products they came out with. The woodworking YouTube disappearance that puzzles me the most is Jenny and Davis. They were some of my favorite people to watch back in the day. They consistently uploaded and were young and relatable. They built loads and loads of cutting boards and then were transitioning to tables. And it seemed like the YouTube thing was just a side of their main woodworking business. Their videos seemed to shout success as they hired marketing people and sales people and built hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of cutting boards. They seemed like they were on the edge of glory. And then they just stopped. I have no idea what happened. Maybe it was too much and they just went back to being hurricane hunters. Maybe they got bought out by IKEA. I'm not really sure. They also got into selling candles near the end of their saga. So maybe they got bought out by Yankee Candle and retired on a beach somewhere. I have no idea how to rein this ramble back in and make it relevant to what you're watching. So I won't even try. Here's a goat. The biggest letdown of all time is realizing that most bandsaw videos on the internet have been sped up. So has my video here. Sure, a sharp blade and a good fence helps, but bandsaws just are not too quick and require no small amount of patience. Surely some of you have seen the videos of people trying to resaw round objects with a bandsaw, and the saw grabs the piece and pulls it down and throws it all over the place. I was a little nervous that would happen here, because the front of my Hexagon was not supported as I pushed it through the saw. But it didn't, and to my great delight, I now had 2 thinner pieces instead of 1 thick one. A few videos back, I mentioned something about wanting to get over my fears of the router and incorporate that clever crotch-level cutter into more projects. And I'm very pleased at the progress I have made with that tool. Not only does this project use the router in new ways for me, but I am so backlogged in editing projects that I can tell you with some level of certainty that the next 2 projects also rely heavily on the router. Many men dream of making raised panel doors, and only a few men actually do it. I haven't done it, but I am one step closer to that dream with the way I'm making the lid of this box. Here I'm cutting the edges of the lid to be a flat profile. The router left a little bit of a rounded edge, and I intend to cut dados in the side pieces to house the lid. So having a flat edge will help make that a smoother process. Speaking of the sides, let's go ahead and I recently was contacted to cut some clever crotched stair pickets. In anticipation of confusing compound angles, I bought a digital angle finder. It has a button which toggles the degrees display to instead display the miter angle to achieve the desired angle. At first, I was thrilled, thinking that this was a revolutionary time saver. Quickly did I remember that finding the miter angle isn't actually all that difficult. All that is necessary is you take the angle measured, find the number of degrees off of 180 degrees. So often do we let our minds be violated and imprisoned by technology. That feature of the angle finder is a great example of that. Speaking of being violated and imprisoned, I briefly considered titling this video something like "Using an Ancient Greek Technique for This Box," or "Wooden Box with Long Lost Ancient Egyptian Techniques," because I'm sure those guys cut something at 30 degrees back in the day. And that's the type of clickbait titles these days that are always getting me. There's one guy in particular, I remember probably a year and a half ago, I got tricked into watching one of his videos that was like, "Ancient Japanese technique for this glorious table." And all he did was glue together like a smashed up slab and then dunk the whole thing in epoxy and call it a day. And I remember leaving that video like halfway through and just being like, this is a complete ripoff. Your title doesn't have anything to do with the video. I wish that I could say that I came up with the design for this box all by myself and take all the credit for this glorious creation. However, there is one man who perhaps stands to say that he had some influence on my subconscious self in coming up with this hexagon pattern. I speak of this man. This is Cyril Vladimir Orly. He died on September 19th, 1996. He designed a sign in 1946, before he died, at the Berkeley Radiation Laboratory at the University of California to warn the viewer of the sign that they are nearby a location in which ionizing radiation could also be nearby. And while the sign is not a perfect match to the top of my box, it is eerily similar.
All right.
For securing the lid of this box, my lazy bones opted to just let it be a friction fit lid that lifts completely up and off when you open it. To achieve this result, I'm essentially making another small box that will sit proud of the top of the bigger box to glue to the inside of the box. The lid will perfectly nest over this smaller box, aligning it and holding it in place while making it very satisfying to open and close.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
John Cage, who died August 12th, 1992, once famously said, "Begin anywhere." I'm sure other people said this before he did, but he gets the credit for it. It's important to note that John Cage is not related to Nicolas Cage. In fact, Nicolas Cage was inspired so greatly by the actions of John that he changed his name from Coppola to Cage. I'm not going to change my name over the workings of John Cage, but his words still are influential in my life. Oftentimes, the fear of the unknowns in a project delay me weeks and weeks from starting it. And once I get into it, it is way less complex than I feared. I have actually found the solution to this burnout before something starts, this fear and apprehension of new things. The key is to spend 30 minutes in an ice bath every morning, or at least take a long cold shower, and then hop online and purchase several expensive online courses from self-proclaimed self-help gurus. It doesn't work immediately, but if you do it for long enough, it will set you so far behind on everything in your life that you will have no choice but to be productive and try to catch up. O wretched step that every man so desperately longs for and so frightfully fears. Do not be deceived by how easy and lighthearted this looks. There will be no jazz to accompany this finishing process, because this was close to a month of pain with no glory. I only filmed the first application of finish because it is the drastic, "oh wow," that makes the grain shine and pop. After that, it's just more of the same old, same old. It's a good thing I turned off the camera because the next few weeks were filled with rage and anger at what I thought was going to be a very easy spray can finish. I clearly shook the can, so it wasn't for lack of shaking, but that layer never hardened, so I removed it with mineral spirits, let it dry, and tried again with similar results. I don't know if it was the temperature of the shop, or the humidity, or a faulty can, But this experience, repeated over and over and over again, was enough to make a grown man cry. But I didn't. Instead, I just took one step closer to purchasing a finishing system so pricey that it would undoubtedly make even a wealthy man cry. We'll hear more about that in the coming months. All right, that is the end of the video. Here's the finished product. I am very proud of this. It took a very long time and was drawn out over probably several months, but I'm done with it and I'm very happy with it. There will be a subscribe button on the top right of your screen, and then I have some video suggestions for you from the modern era. These are videos that I am proud of and are probably not a tough watch. On your left, you will have the video where I built my own bed after graduating from an air mattress. And on the right is where I built a matching one-night stand for that bed. So, if you liked this video, you'll probably like either of those, and if you didn't like this video, you will not like either of those. Thanks for watching, and until next time, go find some crocodiles. Also, here's a sneak peek at my next project. Who knows when I'll actually get around to editing the video, but there it is. Adios.